Alright folks, today we're going to be talking about using all of the formulas we've learned so far to work backwards. So we're solving for a missing length or a missing piece of our formula. Okay, so what I want you to do is grab out your yellow sheet, calculator, pencil, and we'll get started. The first thing we're looking at, it says a cylinder has a radius of 5 and a lateral area of 30 pi inches squared. What is the height? So you're going to be looking for two things in this reading. You're going to look for the shape and then what it's given you, either lateral area, surface area, or volume. Okay, so here our shape is a cylinder and it's asking for the lateral area. That tells you which formula on your cheat sheet to go look for. Okay, so for cylinder, it says lateral area equals 2 pi RH. Okay, so first thing we're writing down the formula. Notice it says you must show your work for full credit. That's the first step. The next step is we're going to go back to the reading and find the pieces that were given. Okay, it says the radius is 5 inches, okay, and then says the lateral area itself is 30 pi. So we're going to plug both of those numbers in the next step. Lateral areas are LA, so 30 pi goes right below that. And then our radius, or R, is 5, so 2 pi and then 5 and H. You'll notice we only have one letter left, one variable to solve for, and it says what is the height, so that looks good for us. So first thing we want to do is get rid of our values over here in terms of we want to combine them together if we can. Okay, so I'll leave the 30 pi alone, and then over here we've got 2 times 5. We're going to multiply the numbers that look like numbers together. Okay, 2 times 5 is 10, and then we've got pi H. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and get rid of the pi on both sides. So we'll divide by pi. Okay, those just cancel here, so we're left with 30 equals 10h. One more step, we just have to divide by 10, and that gives us h is 3 inches. Okay, let's go to the next one. It says a right cone, so our shape is a cone, then with radius 21 centimeters has lateral area of 609 pi. Okay, so again we're looking at lateral area, and this time it's a cone. Okay, so on your cheat sheet find lateral area of a cone. That is pi RL, and we'll fill in these numbers. It says the radius is 21 and the LA is 609 pi. So 609 pi equals pi times 21L. Okay, this time we don't have to multiply anything together over here. It's already just the number 21. So let's go ahead and get rid of our pi. So 609 equals 21L. Okay, that's 21 times L, so we just have to now divide that over. And that gives us 29. So L equals 29, and our label here is centimeters. Okay, all of these pieces today are going to get a regular label because it's just one dimension, one piece that we're solving for. So we won't have anything squared or anything cubed for this time. All right. On number 3, we're given volume of a cube is 512 inches cubed. This time it's volume. Okay, so on your yellow sheet under cube, we're looking for the volume formula. Okay, that says V equals S cubed, or to the third power there. You'll notice there's only one variable, one piece going on this right-hand side. Okay, but our volume itself is 512, so that goes in for V. Now, we've talked about how to get rid of a square, but we haven't talked about how to get rid of a cube yet. Okay, so I want to go and just talk about something we're more familiar with for just a minute here. If we have x squared equals 25, we know we take the square root of that number. Okay, and we know that's 5, but just to show you, we just take the square root there, and 25 gives us 5. Okay, but what we could also do, instead of taking the square root like that, what we can do is instead take it to the 1/2 power. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, so if we raise this to the 1/2, This 2 times 1/2, they cancel each other out, and that's left with x. So 25, and then we raise it to the 1 divided by 2 power, that gives us 5 as well. So these are equivalent, and the reason I'm showing you this is because with this s cubed, because a bunch of us have different ways to find it on their calculator with the cube root, although there is one, I think most calculators, it's right above or below this one. See how the square root is there? You should have a button that's below it or above it with a little 3 there. Okay, it looks like the symbol this. Okay, but I can't tell you where yours is on your calculator right now. So we're going to use this 1/3 and 1/2 action instead today. Okay, so here, to get rid of a 3, we multiply by this 1/3 in the air here. So those powers cancel out. And here, we'll raise it to the 1/3 as well. Okay, so s equals, so with me here, 5, 12, and then use your little caret button, your up arrow here, and then 1 divided by 3. So we've got s equals 8, and we need a label on that. It's 8 inches. Alright, the next one, it says the volume of a rectangular pyramid is 192. Okay, so volume and then rectangular pyramid. Okay, so we're looking under pyramid and the volume formula there. Okay, so with our pyramid we have a point, so our volume formula is 1/3 area of the base times the height. Okay, but this area of the base is actually a little formula in itself, so we're going to have one more step here. We'll say V equals 1/3, and then we have to think, how do you find the area of a rectangle, since that is the base of a rectangular pyramid? Okay, and that's length times width, and then our height comes down. Okay, so this is equivalent to our base, length times width. Now that we have that figured out, we're going to go fill in just like we did before. It said the volume is this 192. In general, your biggest number should always go by itself. And then the 1/3 stays. Says if one base edge is 12 and the other is 8. Okay, so this is going to be really important here. We've got length, width, height, but it doesn't really say length, width, and height here. It says the base edge. Okay, so on our base of our pyramid, it's saying one of the edges, this distance, is 12, and one of the distances is 8. Well, you'll notice both of those are on the base. Those are the area of the base, the length times the width. Okay, so if you see base, that's got to go in for your length or your width on, on this particular formula. So we've got 12 times 8. And then it says what is the height. That means we don't know it. Okay, just like we did with the first problem, we want to multiply these numbers together and simplify them first. Okay, so 1/3 times 12 times 8. It's 32. And then we can divide by 32 on both sides. So h equals 6 feet. Number 5 here, give the radius of a sphere with volume 972 pi centimeters cubed. Okay, so this one we're looking at a sphere and the volume. Okay, so V equals, for volume we've got 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, and then we're plugging in just this 972 pi. That's all we were given. That was the volume, so it's going in for V. Oops. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and get rid of that pi. We'll divide it over. So then we have 972 equals 4/3 r cubed. Okay, to get rid of this fraction, we've got 4 divided by 3, so we'll multiply by 3 first. That gets rid of that. So 2,916 equals, now we're just left with the 4r cubed. we can divide by that 4. And that 729 equals r cubed. Okay, again, we've got a cube, so remember we're taking that to the 1/3 power on both sides. You may, on your calculator, have to write it in parentheses, 1 divided by 3. So if for some reason you're not getting the same answer as I do when we type this in, just put parentheses around that and it should work for you. And that gives you r equals 9. Our label here is centimeters. Alright, number 6 here says the volume of a sphere is 18,432 pi centimeters squared, and then we're supposed to find the surface area. Okay, so this one's a little bit different because we have both volume and surface area. What I want you to pay attention to is the sentences. Notice this first is given in the first sentence, and then after that we're supposed to find the surface area. So that means we have to take care of this first. You can never use two formulas at the same time. Okay, so we're given the volume of a sphere. That's what we're looking at first. V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so here we've got our volume. That means we have to use this to then find the radius here of our sphere. That's going to let us go then find the surface area. Okay, first thing we're doing is just getting rid of our pi. So 18,432 equals 4/3 r cubed. Okay, remember for this 4/3 we have 2 steps. First we're going to get rid of this divided by 3. So we'll multiply by 3 on both sides. Okay, that's going to be a pretty big number, but that's okay. Okay, so 55,296 equals 4r cubed. Okay, so now we divide by 4. That'll bring it back down to 13,824. Okay, then we're getting rid of this to the 3rd power, raising it to the 1/3. Remember parentheses 1 divided by 3. So r equals 24, and our label on this is centimeters. Now that was just our first step. Now it wants us to find the surface area, but once we find this, it's pretty easy. Okay, our surface area formula for a sphere on your cheat sheet says 4 pi r squared. So we're just saying 4 times pi times that 24 from over here squared. So we'll take that 24 and square it, and then multiply by 4 to get 2,304. Remember that pi comes down, and our label is centimeters. For surface area, okay, that's going to be squared. The approximate version of that, if we go ahead and multiply by pi, is about 7,238.2 centimeters squared again. Okay, so that right there is our final answer. Okay. Go ahead and flip over your paper, and we're going to be adding just a little bit more detail into these problems here. Okay, so this first one says Ricky is going swimming in his friend's pool that's shaped like a rectangular prism. We call that a box. He knows that the pool is 20 feet in length, 15 feet wide, and has a volume of 1,800 feet cubed. So here's our volume, and our shape is a box. Okay, so first thing, we're just writing our formula. Volume for this is area of the base times the height. Our base, and I think on your cheat sheet it already has this, but with a rectangle, it's length times width. So we've got length times width times height here. Okay, so let's go look. It says he knows the pool is 20 foot long. Okay, so that's going in for our length. And it's 15 feet wide. That's going in for our W. And the volume is 1,800, so that goes in for our V, our volume. Ricky cannot swim well, so he needs to know how deep. Hopefully you remember deep is always meaning solve for h. Okay, so our h stays. Then we're going to go ahead and multiply our 20 times our 15, 300, and then bring down our 1800. One more step, we just have to go ahead and divide by 300 on each side. And h equals 6, label is feet. Alright. The next one, it says Paige is going to water her cattle. The cylindrical, okay, so that's like a cylinder, tank she is filling can hold 150.8 feet cubed. Then it has a height of 3 feet. What is the radius of the tank? So again, we have to figure out which formula we're using. Okay, we're looking just at cylinder, and then over here you'll notice it says the word hold, but it also gives you this label as feet cubed. Both of those things tell us volume. So volume is area of the base times the height again, but for a cylinder, the base is a circle, so that goes pi r squared for the area of our base. Okay, so for these ones, when it just gives you area of the base with our volume problems, you're going to have two steps to write down your formula. The one they give you, and then plugging in the area of the base. From there, we can go plug some numbers in. It says that the volume itself is 150.8. You'll notice we have a decimal because they didn't put a pi on this number here, so that's a little bit different. On the other side, it says the height is 3, so our h is going to be 3 here. First step, we're going to get rid of the pi. This time it doesn't cancel out, so we're going to have to go ahead and divide that in our calculator here. So 150.8, and then divided by pi. That gives us about 48. See how that rounds to 48? And then I'll go ahead and put this 3 in the front and call it 3r squared. That looks a little bit like we're used to seeing. Then we can go ahead and divide that 3 off. That gives us 16. And one more step. We know the square root of 16 is 4. Label here, feet. Alright, next one here. Brian is designing a new oil funnel. Remember, funnels are in the shape of a cone to use with his sweet new truck. He needs the funnel to hold, okay, so we see that word hold again, 1,000 centimeters cubed of oil. So, with the hold, we know we're going to be dealing with volume, and then we're told the radius is going to be 6 centimeters. What does the height of the funnel need to be? So our volume formula for a cone, since it's got a point, is 1/3 area of the base times the height. Again, a cone has a base that has a circle, so our area of the base is pi r squared. Then h comes down. Now we can go ahead and plug in some numbers. The volume itself is 1,000. Then equals 1/3. Then we're told the radius is going to be 6, so pi times 6 squared h. Okay, so over here we can go ahead and multiply our numbers that look like numbers together. So that's our 1/3 and our 6 squared. We know 6 squared is 36, so we're timesing that by 1/3. And that gives us 12. So 1,000 equals 12 pi h. Okay, then we want to get rid of this pi. So 1,000 divided by pi. Again, it didn't cancel, so we're going to have a decimal here, but that's okay. 318.3. And then it equals, these are gone, so it's just 12h. So one more step, we just have to divide by 12. So our height is going to be about 26.5. And our label here is centimeters. Alright. For the next one, I would like you to pause the video and see if you can solve for the radius of the balloon. They tell you it's a sphere, so find the right formula and plug some stuff in for me. Okay, our formula looks like 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, first step is just plugging in that 2,304, and then we're solving for r, so we need to get rid of pi. Okay, I went ahead and rounded to this 733.4. Okay, but a lot of this can be done in your calculator, so the next step, we know we have to multiply by 3. And that cancels that out, and then divide by 4. Okay, so if you use it all in your calculator here, you're going to get a more accurate answer. You may, if you rounded in between here, get 550.1 instead of 0.0. That's okay because you'll still get the same radius. It's okay if you just use the rounded version instead of in your calculator with all those decimal places. You'll come up with the same answer here. Alright, just a couple more problems. The next one, it says the Get Slim exercise ball has surface area. Okay, we have a typo here. This should say squared if it's area, but it's 784 pi inches squared. We want to know the radius of the ball. Okay, so since it says we're doing a ball here, that's going to be a sphere. So surface area is 4 pi r squared. Okay, I want you to go ahead and pause the video on this one because I think you can handle it based on your algebra skills on getting rid of that squared. Okay, so pause the video and take care of this problem for me, please. Alright, so this time we had pi in our surface area, so those cancel out, and we're left with 784 equals 4r squared. Divide that 4 over to get 196, and then we take the square root to get 14. Label here is inches. Last problem here, we've got the surface area given to us and we're going to find the volume. So again, we've got two separate formulas here. We have to take care of one at a time. So surface area comes first. We've got 4 pi r squared, and it says that surface area is 900 pi. So that's going in for our SA. First thing, we're going to get rid of that pi. They cancel on both sides, and we're left with 900 equals 4r squared. Next, we'll divide by 4 on both sides. So 900 divided by 4 gives us 225 equals r squared. And hopefully you know that one as well. It's one of our perfect squares that we learned. So the square root of 225 is 15, and then our label is inches. Okay, again, we have to take care of the second half though. We're not quite done. We want to find the volume using this radius. Okay, so our volume formula is 4/3 pi r to the third power, and we just have to substitute in this 15. So we've got V equals 4/3 pi times 15 to the third power. Okay, so we're taking 4 divided by 3 times 15 and then raise that to the third power. So that is 4,500. Pi comes down, and our label for volume will be inches cubed. The approximate version of that, if we go ahead and multiply it by pi in our calculator, comes out to be 14,137.2 inches cubed. And that's it. If for some reason you're having trouble with your calculator, especially on those ones where you have to take the cube root or get rid of that cubed power, please come see me and I can help you find the best way to solve these on your particular calculator.